Good morning, everyone. Nataša and me are going to talk about the research that was done in 2016. And I'm going to present the results, and Nataša will join us during the discussion. I'm going to start. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
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 Okay. I will start first with a few words about Roma situation in Serbia, about Roma people in Serbia. According to the latest census, Serbia's population, 2% people declared themselves as Roma. According to unofficial statistics, percentage is higher, approximately about 6%. And according to data of European Commission, 600,000 people, Roma people, live in Serbia. Roma ethnic group is one of the most marginalized groups with limited access to education, health protection, social protection, and the labor market. And according to the strategy for social inclusion of Roma in the Republic of Serbia, main problems of Roma people are poverty, social exclusion, explicit and implicit discrimination, especially in the areas of employment, education, and housing. When it comes to education of Roma students in Serbia, Roma Decade brought us some recommendations for educational inclusion of all children, including children from underprivileged groups. The recommendations were to understand the importance of early education, to understand education as a driver of social inclusion, and to develop institutional mechanisms to prevent discrimination. The most common problems that Roma face in education are, first of all, low coverage of Roma children with preschool education, then increased risk of segregated schooling, together with different prejudices and discrimination, and also high dropout rates during secondary education. When it comes to education at universities, colleges, and universities, the coverage of the general population by university education is 42%. But when it comes to Roma students, only less than 1% of Roma students enroll college or university. Possible explanations for this situation might be the results of other researches done in Serbia. For example, some studies showcase the lower educational aspiration of disadvantaged students. We might talk later about why they have a lower educational aspiration. Also, low educational mobility in Serbia. Large share of students from families with low socioeconomic status find studying at the faculty extremely stressful. There's been a high level of discrimination based on nationality and ethnical background, and also affirmative measures and student scholarship are the only measures now that can support Roma students during their studies, which is obviously not enough. So obstacles for Roma students are numerous. First of all, there is a poverty. Second, there is a social exclusion and discrimination, both explicit and also implicit, that is even more dangerous. Then lack of role models. Examples of successful Roma professionals are not very visible in our public sphere. Most of Roma students, they lack financial, social, or psychological support, and they're faced with a lot of prejudices reinforced through deficit theory, culture of poverty theory, blaming the victim theory, all theories that try to place causes of social problems into the group that has a problem. So when we talk about obstacles for enrolling universities, we talk about motivation of students, that they're not motivated, they have low level of aspiration, they are not persistent enough, and so, and we actually neglect the system and the social context that creates inequality and that makes some groups privileged and some underprivileged. Also, there are a lot of success factors, such as abilities, such as resilience, the capacity to persist in spite of difficulties, like financial, social, psychological support, like positive ethnic socialization that might be considered as a part of psychological support, the messages that we hear from our parents about our ethnic group, about how to be proud and nurture our cultural heritage. And also one important factor that can bring success is intercultural local community that nurture values such as appreciation for diversity, equality, and equity. I'm going to talk you about one part of the research that we did. It's a very long name, so we call it Roma Champions. And we did it together with the Center for Health and Human Rights, Harvard University, and Center for Interactive Pedagogy from Belgrade. And the project has 4 components. One of them is research, and I'm going to talk about research. We were interested in obstacles and success factors of Roma University students. But also one component was capacity building. We trained some of the students to be researchers. We trained them to how to administrate surveys, how to conduct interviews, how to conduct qualitative research. So in a way that was the capacity building for them. Also, we had 1-2 days workshop. We called it Writing Lives. And the goal of the workshop was to gain a deeper understanding of participants' experience related to research topics, and also to interlink participants through the process of mutual sharing and learning, and to empower them to build alliances with their colleagues and to become leaders in their local communities. They also participate in video production of their personal stories. They made a short movie. And we talked about the results of the research with different stakeholders, trying to, in a way, to affect educational policies and to introduce some changes. The research aim was to understand the contextual and personal factors of success of Roma University students in order to define recommendations for the improvement of higher education inclusiveness in Serbia. Methodological framework, we had 2 studies, quantitative and qualitative study. I'm not going to talk about quantitative study. You see, we had 89 Roma University students and 100 Roma students with only secondary education that came from similar backgrounds. And we gave them questionnaire with different topics, but we also have qualitative study. 20 Roma University students that participated both in interviews and in workshop Writing Lives. So when I'm talking about the results of qualitative study, bear in mind that I'm talking about those 20 Roma students. I will give you just a brief, like a snapshot of quantitative study results. That analysis of questionnaires showcase that major success factors that make a difference between those of them who continued their education and those of them who didn't are, first of all, financial support, then social and psychological support especially from teachers. That's why we put educational support, and also scholarships were most relevant in secondary school. Then presence of role models and friends from diverse contexts. One big difference was that Roma champions, let's call them Roma champions, they have friends and they have networks outside of their community. Most of them live in Roma settlement, but Roma students, Roma university students, they built networks with friends and other people outside of, both outside and inside their community. Most of them are civically engaged, and they are also engaged in different hobbies, and this is the difference between them and the control group. And they have both extrinsic and intrinsic motivation for learning not just as a way to gain something, but to build the personality, personal capacities, and so on. And also they reported more discrimination than their peers from control group, especially in elementary school, and especially directed toward boys. About the qualitative research concerning family background, half of our students had positive family relationship. They reported education being promoted as a value in their families, and that continuing education was not negotiable at all. And this is what they say. Education is important because it can enable you to find a job. Education is important because you can be respected. These are the messages from their parents. And education is not negotiable. It was logical to continue education. That was not even the question that was asked in their families. Unfortunately, there were some of Roma students who reported dysfunctional family relationships, loss of parents divorce, frequent relocation, trying and some attempts to stop their education, like neglecting the child, like abusing family. And also like trying to stop the child from continuing education. Discrimination was also one of the topics that was mentioned very, very often during their narratives, during their stories. It seems that it was like steady companion throughout schooling. Those of them who went to kindergarten reported discrimination even in kindergarten, mostly from peers. Most of them experienced discrimination during elementary school from teachers and from peers. Also in secondary school from teachers and from peers. And at the faculty, they did not experience discrimination. Only one person experienced discrimination from teachers and one from their peers. Teachers tried to discourage students to continue education, to show them that they are not competent enough, and that since they belong to Roma group, they either should get married or find some job, but not continue education. And also among peers, the discrimination was very present. This is the story of one Roma boy from Kosovo. We talked a lot about support they got throughout their schooling. And it was clear that Roma champions had at least one person who was a great support to them and who meant a lot to them. In primary schools, they talked about parents and teachers. In secondary school, they talked about teacher and peer support. And they also mentioned financial support in terms of scholarships. And at the faculty, it seems that there are no support from teachers, but they mention support from their family. Support from parents, mostly mothers or other members of the family, was very important to our Roma champions. They said that support helped them to develop resilience and the proactive attitude toward life. Messages like just keep going, never give up. Also helped them to gain autonomy, independence, and responsibility. So this is, I made my own decisions, and so should you. You are free to choose whatever you want. These are the messages that actually help them to gain their autonomy. Unconditional support. Don't worry, I will always be there for you. You're not alone. And also financial support. Don't worry about the money, that's my problem. When it comes to support from teachers, teachers served as a very powerful role models. They were setting high expectations. They showed the trust in students' capacities, and that was a big support for them. They nurture proactivity and persistence. And some of them show respect for Roma identity and heritage. When it comes to support from peers, peers help them to establish contact with others, to overcome their timidity in communication with other peers. They help them to reframe their priorities in life. They encourage them. And they also advise them how to protect themselves from being hurt. Messages like don't expect too much from them, don't think about them, they're not important, are messages that actually trying to help our participants to deal with the situation they were faced with. When we come to personal factors, to some capacities and to some values and life orientation, in a questionnaire, we had one open-ended question. We asked participants about the motto of their lives. And there was a big difference between Roma champions and their peers from control group, in terms that life mottos of Roma champions were more proactive. Themes like perseverance and fight, modesty, kindness, optimism dominate life mottos of Roma champions. Their peers showed more less proactive attitude. They were more reconciled with destiny, like que sera sera, and Roma champions showed more willingness to fight and to take responsibility for their actions. These are some of their mottos. And we also, during the Writing Lives workshop, one activity was to frame the message to Roma children, to their peers. And all the messages they think of reflected a high degree of proactivity and awareness and what we call fighting spirits. These are, we just share with you two different messages. Always try to turn what your perspective as your weakness into your strength. And also advices like they should never give up. They should not say they won't ask for help. They should knock on every door if that's what they have to do to fulfill their dreams. So you see that all their advices to their younger peers are full of that fighting spirit and very proactive. Also, one activity was to think about what is their personal strength and to try to present that strength in with clay to model their strength. And when we looked at their strengths, different strengths, we noticed that all their personal strengths were connected with their inner capacity to be proactive and have a clear vision of important goals together with the strength, energy, and optimism to achieve those goals. I will show you some examples. This is an academic cap, and because that person thinks that his knowledge, the one he has and use, is his power. This is a shining star, optimism that provides safeness, sense of belonging, acceptance, desire to broaden our horizons. The skinny boy is me, this chubby boy is also me, but that chubby boy gives me strength. I am my own strength, support, and energy. So, to conclude, although the educational trajectories of Roma University students were full of very tough experiences and challenges and different examples of discrimination and exclusion, what helped them was that they had at least one significant person who provided them psychological support. Also, social capital acquired through schooling and engagement in extracurricular activities proved to be a significant success factor. Networks they made with different people outside of their immediate local communities proved to be very important as a factor of success. Also, psychological capital, high level of proactivity proved to be a significant success factor. Proactivity and hope and optimism is what gave them resilience. And also financial support through scholarship, through affirmative measures was also one of very important success factors. So based on our conclusions, we made some recommendations what can be done in order to foster Roma enrollment in colleges and universities. First of all, financial support and affirmative measures for enrollment are a must. But what we need is information sharing among Roma. They need to know what possibilities they have, what kind of support are available, so that they can, so that they can use those different types of support. And also what we need is awareness raising among the general population, because a few Roma participants told us that they were discriminated and they were labeled negatively because of affirmative measures. General population do not understand why affirmative measure is important. And And we need to explain that, and we need to tell them that affirmative measure is not going to jeopardize them or their position, because this is the usual misconception of affirmative measure. If we give something to one group, then it will be less for our group, which is not true. Also, activism proved to be a very important success factor. So during the secondary schooling and during the university time, we need to provide Roma children opportunities to be proactive, to be engaged in different activists projects or initiatives, to have the opportunity to network with peers from different backgrounds and with people from different backgrounds, so that they can spread their social network, and they can, in a way, practice their democracy skills through different types of activism, and build their self-esteem through participation in different initiatives or projects. What they say, some of them mention that they would need some kind of peer mentorship at the faculty, like peer who is older, preferably also Roma, who knows what they've been going through and who can help them to deal with the difficulties they face during their schooling. Also, it is important to have more role models, more successful Roma people, Roma professionals who can be role models to children who would like to continue their education. They need to be visible. They need to be invited. They need to schools. They need to talk to children. They need to show children that they overcame some obstacles, and they can be motivated factor for those children. Also, fighting spirit, relying on themselves exclusively, is in a way good thing, because as you could see before, it gave them a sense of self-confidence, of self-esteem. It gave them resilience, but it might be also a risk factor for burnout. So we need to think about that. In order to give and to provide additional psychological support, and together with Roma students, try to change some aspects of social surrounding that creates inequalities, in order to for them to feel better. It's not, we need to, in a way, to show them that it's not everything about their responsibility, because if they think that they're responsible for everything, they will start to blame themselves, which is not good. So we need a balanced approach. We need psychological support in that cases. And also what they said they would need are different motivational trainings, other kinds of capacity buildings, opportunities to gain some skills and competencies they didn't have a chance to gain during primary or secondary schooling, like all different language courses, time management training, communication skills training, and so and so. So, and I would like to thank you for your attention. I hope that I did not talk much over 20 minutes. And I would like to ask you for comments.